All right. Hello, hello, hello to everybody out there watching and listening to us right now. Welcome to Melanin and Moonlight. I am one of your co-hosts, Tyrell Collins.
And I'm the other, Vernon Scott. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you doing today, friend?
Doing good, doing good. I'm still, like settling in from last time. Y'all had heard me. I had moved, so getting adjusted to that. But I love being in a new environment, love dealing with like less traffic. I can actually hear myself think, like, yes,
Mhm.
God.
Listen. See, to be away from that city is such a beautiful thing. Like people don't realize how hectic ATL can be until you're really out of it for an extended period of time. You're just like, wait. Traffic does not really have to be this crazy.
It
Like
don't.
there is a such thing as actual rush hour where you only have to deal with traffic for only 1 or 2 hours.
Hours, exactly. And then even the rush hour, it's still not bad. Like, like rush hour where I am, people have said like, yeah, you're still going at like 40 miles an hour. So like
Right.
so you still get to your destination.
Sure, I used to have a like when I used to live in Tennessee. Granted, Um, I don't know what it was. Nashville's Fridays used to just be wild, and also the Thursday. No, not Thursday. Tuesday. Like you'll
Mhm.
think Monday will be a very heavy traffic day, but no, it's always like Tuesday and Friday for whatever reason.
Mhm.
But anytime I come back to Georgia, I'm like, okay, I'm going through Atlanta. Let me go ahead and put whatever that Atlanta
No.
traffic mindset on.
No, like
Oh,
literally, where I am in Ohio, you literally have to go through like Columbus, Cincinnati, go through like Kentucky, get to Tennessee, everything. Usually no traffic. You may have a little bit of a slowdown here and there, but the traffic don't start until like you're an hour away outside of Atlanta when you hit that Marietta area.
listen.
Like bam. And it's just like, what is going on right now?
It's so hilarious. It's so hilarious.
What
And
is
then on
going
the
on?
other end, it's what Henry County. As soon as you get into Henry County, you're just like, so why is there traffic? Like
Mhm.
what magically happened? I
And
was
it'd be
just
like
around
at
my
1 and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Like it's not even 5 or 6 o'clock yet. Like what is going on right now?
It's ridiculous. It's
Like
ridiculous.
why are there so many people on the road? Right?
Throw it away.
I can't. I cannot. I cannot. Well, as we get ready to wrap up our first official season here, it's been so like as we're gonna talk about nostalgia tonight, it is nostalgic for us because like we're wrapping up our season, but like it's been 6 months.
It
So like where
has.
like so is there anything, that you remember from like our first recording?
Oh, let's dang, it has been 6 months. I didn't even think about that. Not me feeling like I'm in a hot seat now. Oh my God. What I think more so in the lines of feelings in the moment. I remember um it wasn't that things were super hectic, but there was such a calm
Hmm.
when we originally started the podcast, and it was just like, oh well, let's do this, let's do that, and then like everything seemed to fall into place when really got everything kicked off.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, life has been doing its thing this within 6 months.
Yeah.
It's not as much calm, but there is still that excitement because it's like there was a journey here, right? There
Mm,
was um like random, like when you think about the different events that happen within the 6 months, we have the P. Diddy situation, me going in on Tyler Perry, and then me going in on Dr. Umar, me going in on Dr. Umar. Then, then the release of Beyond the Gates, because that was
yeah.
a wonderful experience, even though I still have a lot to catch up on. But just having that time and freedom just to sit and watch and enjoy and just engage in that. was good. It
And
was
it just goes to show like how much can happen in 6 months because like these are like huge things that are like happening like in the culture, and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So it's like, oh my God. It's like it's overwhelming, but it's exciting all at the same time.
Right, right. What are your thoughts when you think about, us getting everything started back in, what, February? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember like the initial conversations we were having about like what we were gonna name ourselves. I remember the funny thing that happened like at the end of our first show. Like we never did announce like what the title of the show was though, and we did it at the end. But
Right.
so like, of course, y'all had to stick with us. We had to get into a bit of a groove, which we found. But I've always loved the nature of just our dynamic. We keep things really calm, really chill. Like, I'm so glad that we're able to just like speak candidly. And, for people who, watch us, listen to us, hopefully, obviously the things that we talk about, like it gives you some food for thought. Like, we're never here to bash people. Well, sometimes we are, but like it's not our intention always to bash people upside the head. But we always just like to give like different perspectives, and I love how we have that kind of same, line of kind of thinking. We approach things from different points of view, both from our
Mhm.
educational backgrounds, our actual personal backgrounds. So it makes it just like a really fun time.
Mm. Ooh, is there a favorite conversation that we've had that stands out to you? Like, when you think back
Mm.
of these past 6 months? Like, I do have one, but if you already have yours, you can go ahead and jump in.
Ooh.
If you need some time, let me know.
Well, it's always like, of course, I'm always like a TV and movie buff, like, so I always love talking about media. So I think anytime where it's like, okay, yeah, we're getting on Tyler Perry or, know, like, or we were just, talking about like the early days for Beyond the Gates or just talking about representation in general. I always like those kind of, like conversations because they're always just so dear to me. And it's not the fact, of course, I enjoy talking about like, of course, like political, like very serious,
Mhm.
things that are going on and I think for me it's just sometimes I have to like write out my notes a little bit more when it comes to our more serious topics just because it's like, okay, I know I want to talk about like this point, and I don't want to make sure I miss anything versus like, okay, yeah, when we're talking about media, I'm just spitting off the dome.
Right, right.
What about for you?
Um, child, when you said politics, my mind immediately went to the orangutan because I wanna put orange in there. Maybe on his deathbed, and I just wanna laugh, but now, and it's on a serious note, outside of that, the conversation that I think I enjoyed the most that we had was the one when we were talking about waiting to exhale. Uh
Okay, yes.
that was a wonderful time just going through all the characters, bringing up, like, our interpretation of everything that's going on, and even though we said we're not gonna lean heavily on the dudes in the conversation, we still went in on it. Like
But again, that kind of feeds into like our conversation that we're gonna have about like, okay, why do we have this nostalgia? Like when we talked about waiting to exhale, you guys, of course, everybody who's listening and watching for us right now, we go online to see like, okay, like what are some things that people are like mentioning or discussing? And one of the prime reasons we had that conversation is like there was like this trend on Instagram about like why, obviously the lady that plays Whitney Houston's mother, like she has this iconic line in the movie, like Savannah, he's a good man.
Mhm.
know? But it's like, why is that all of a sudden like trending like online? Like it's just the things that happen online be so random. Like, you could understand, like, oh, okay, if this movie is celebrating its like anniversary or something, so now you have these kind of topics trending or whatever. But it be the most random stuff online that be trending, and it's like, where did this
How?
come from?
How and why?
Why?
But yeah, that was definitely one of my highlight episodes. And if you are new to this, podcast, definitely go back and listen to all the old episodes so you can get some
Yeah.
references from all that. You can really get a vibe and feel about how we feel about certain things,
Mhm.
find agreements, disagreements, and all those great things, and jump into that conversation about waiting to exhale because you might be shocked. So, as we're in the realm of nostalgia,
Mm.
um, ooh, okay, so I've been watching old movies, and it's not necessarily intentionally like, oh, I just want to do it. It's kind of like I want something in the background as I do this task, that task, and I've been enjoying it, of course.
Mm.
Recently, I looked at Don't Be a Menace. I looked at House Party,
Good.
which phenomenal. Just a crazy film. Like, it's really been enjoyable taking the step into what the '90s brought,
Mhm.
in terms of cinema. Have there been any, like, movies that you watched from your early childhood to teenage years that's really been coming back for you? Especially, like, I know you look at YouTube, sometimes as well, and they have the free-ish movies on there. Have you been looking at anything?
Yeah, no, I'm always looking at things. I'm always like a nostalgia kind of person, like when it comes to media, just because I think that there's, of course, as we know, there's a difference when you grow up with something and you don't really like you enjoy it, but then once you become older, when you
Mm,
watch it, you recognize all the nuances of it. So I think a lot of us, like even when it comes to like Disney, like classic Disney films, right? When we think about like The Lion King and The Little Mermaid and Aladdin and
mm,
all these type things, yes, we watched them like when we were younger because like that's what we watched. Like it was fun. It was, whatever. And then it's not until like we grow older and we realize, okay, like yeah, like Lion King is really based on like a Shakespearean, like play. Like we learn that, hey, this is the reason why this, and now we have these new terms like Scar is trying to gaslight his nephew. like in the way
mm,
he can. So it's like when you connect these dots now because you're older, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm not just watching this for the fun of it, but like I have a mindset where I can like analyze these things now. So I know I'm a person that watches a lot of YouTube reaction videos because one thing
mhm,
I love to see is people who are in our age range, older or younger. Like you have a lot of people that have never seen like just classic things. And it's not necessarily because like they didn't want to or whatever, but like circumstances. If you were a lot of people, for instance, with music, like I am always flabbergasted that a lot of people when they react, like they have never heard of certain songs. And I'm like, how
mhm.
have you not heard this? Like this is
Right.
like iconic. But if you've grown up in a house with a certain kind of parent, like authority figures, or like if for TV, if you had to like share the TV all the time with your siblings, you
Mhm,
may know something in passing, but like you never stop to take time to hear it or to watch it or things like that. So I'm very in tune with YouTube reactions. I
mhm.
love to see people reacting to movies, film, and music. Something recently that I rewatched um Disney was, what was it that I rewatched? Oh yeah, I had rewatched Princess and the Frog. Just
Oh.
recently. And even though it's not like a 90s, kind of Disney,
Mhm,
movie, I was just going back and, watching it because as I'm watching, Princess Tiana, I'm like, yeah, like, and it's been talked about, of course, several times. Like, okay, we have our black animated Disney princess, and then, y'all make her into a frog for half the movie. So, like, what, like, we're supposed to be doing upliftment, but really, what kind of upliftment are we having here?
mhm,
But again, appreciating the movie for, what it is. But yeah, so yeah, I'm always going back and, watching, or listening to something that is, nostalgic.
mhm. I feel like this will be the perfect time because we're talking about Disney to
Mm,
discuss some of the iconic queer icons that Disney brought us that it was just
yes.
as you grow up, you're just like, even though this person was not queer coded, but gay. Like Scar being one of them, and I will be out there and I don't care how anybody takes this. Scar will forever be a sexy beast. I don't know why, but Scar since day one, just
It's
like
like it's like because it's Jeremy Irons voiceover. It's like, yeah.
so, and also iconic queer, iconic queer because who else has that number? Do we remember Be Prepared? How great that
Um,
he had those hyenas in line, okay? He said, "We are not gonna break any kind of coordination today. When you come across me, you're gonna shift your head over. Yes, girly pop. Yes, do it." Scar had it down.
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, now if we want to talk about like somebody who just served it up from day one, gave us body, gave us songs like
This is
Miss
Jafar.
Ursula.
Oh, ooh, oh my God,
Miss
yes.
Ursula,
Miss
right? Like
Ursula
her
work.
makeup, her body, the attitude,
Ugh.
like just serving.
Just work
Just
down.
serves.
And even when, because the ages have to be fat phobic and everything, even when she became that skinny piece of whatever it was, worked. But guess what? She said, "This is my real beauty," and she shifted back to Big Mama. Oh my, just a gorgeous character. She
Yes,
said, "Y'all going to see me, y'all gonna respect me because, bitch, I am here."
yes.
Yeah,
And
Ursula.
then let's also even talk about like characters like who obviously have like queer codedness. Like if we take even some villains like Jafar in Aladdin, right? Like
Listen,
the dramatic flair that Jafar has and his obsession with
listen,
controlling
Jafar
it.
Jafar had his own house. He is a house father. He might even be a house mother if we dare go that far. Jafar knew what was going on. He knew. He was just like,
Mm.
this little young thing here. I just have to marry her just so I can get the power.
And
Oh.
then and then and then like come on for Mr. Lee Shang in Mulan. I mean like he fell for Mulan while she was presented as a man. So it's like,
Y'all,
you know,
y'all need to let that man live. That is the best bisexual man that Disney has ever brought us.
yes.
We, which is so hilarious because being in it, you don't even think about the fact that he's falling for Mulan. You're
Mhm.
just like, this is interesting. It like as a kid, I was like, yeah, there's some attraction here, but he's attracted because he
Mhm.
recognizes that this is a female because that mentality is kind of socializing to us.
Mhm.
So I'm like, okay, that's cool, whatever. As an adult, thinking about it, no, Mulan represented a whole male figure out here.
Yeah.
Like she's giving true stud daddy, right? So stud that
Mhm.
she could be on what's that? She could be somebody's husband, whatever. I forgot the name of the Hoochie Daddy. She could be a character on Hoochie Daddies. There we go. Like she was given masculinity that nobody mistook. And Shang is just like, you wanna rumble?
Yeah.
You wanna practice a little bit more?
But that also like brings up a very interesting thing about like when we have these turns away from like things that we consider to be nostalgic, and then when we have
Mhm.
like this turn in story, because like when we think about like our classic like Disney princesses, Cinderella's, the Snow Whites, like the Belle, Princess Jasmine, Ariel, all these princesses, and like of course they're written in these like traditional, kind of like feminine, kind of roles.
Mhm.
They're trying to escape their circumstances. They don't want to be involved in these, whatever. And then we get to like the 2010s, and then all of a sudden now we're changing, these kind of like female heroines. where you have like Elsa from Frozen, you have
Mm,
Merida from Brave, like, these, like very strong women. Like one of the things that I know for me that I loved about Frozen was that I love the fact that Frozen was not about Elsa, like finding a prince. I love the fact that the true love story of Frozen is
yes.
her and her sister.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Merida is, like this, she rejects marriage. She's like this tomboy. She's trying to save her like she's the one that's trying to save her brothers. So like, as much as, like I am a romantic at heart and things like that, as we, delve more into this conversation about nostalgia, there are some things that I do like that we took a turn with. And it's not to say we didn't have those stories. And, and of course, when we're talking about Disney classics, we're talking about Walt Disney classics, not the
Mhm.
original literatures that are much more horrid, you know.
Right.
Um, yeah, but yeah, I just, even just coming back a little bit, like, why do you think, like, we tend to have such nostalgia? Because there's always this saying that, and I don't even know if this is technically like true or not. There's always like this culture culture often revives itself or revive styles and trends from like 20, 30 years earlier. So like
Mhm,
there's a reason why today we're often obsessed with the 90s,
mhm,
right? When we were in the 90s, like there was like an obsession with the 70s. Like, so I don't know, it's like something that goes through like time cycles where we become like seriously just obsessed with a certain
mhm.
decade or a certain era. So like what do you think about that?
Sometimes I think a lot of that is due to who's now the adults in the room,
Mm,
meaning, but when we're growing up, the adults in the room would have been like, whoever's older than the Gen X, but, or maybe just the Gen X, generation themselves, where they're reliving the things that was popular in their age, which would have been like the 70s and disco and
mm,
all that, and the revamp of like R&B and rap and hip hop and all this
mm,
music. And
right.
then also being people who lived through the 90s, bringing that back up because they remember how good they feel. Like,
Mm.
immediately, one of the things that came to mind was a quote from what's that movie called, about the with the emotions? Inside Out.
Oh,
Inside
Inside
Out
Out.
2. It was either one of them. I think it was Inside Out 2, where
Mm,
they said mentioned that the older that people become, they feel less joy. So I was like, so with that quote, it reminds me that because people are becoming adults and they are experiencing less joy, we tend to attach to those moments that do bring us that joy, which
yeah.
would be those early childhood memories, which is like our generation. Yes, we lived in the 90s time. Like, yeah, we'll probably dive into the media from when we're young, well, when we were young, like Lion King and Toy Story and
Mhm,
all those things, but when it comes to where we lived and had the most fun, it will be us bringing back the stuff that we experienced in, like, the 2010s,
mm,
where many of us are even early 2000s, well, or late 2000s, where many of us were, like, in the clubs,
mm.
like, where you see people bringing back well, they're not really wearing business attire to clubs anymore, but, having those kind of conversations about, "Oh, yeah, this is what we used to wear when we went out," and stuff like that, because that was the ethos, and that is the thing that brought them joy, and that was the epitome of those experiences of liveliness,
Mm,
for our generation, and, yeah, now we just are trying our best to educate the younger, generation about, "Oh, this is what we used to do, this what we, had, so it doesn't die along with us." So I think we're at that stage where we're preserving, the experiences that we had to
yeah.
share, with the newer people so that they gain that interest, and that interest then goes to their children, and a piece of our generation lives lives forward within, those kind of conversations. So that's where my mind went on it.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that because that delves into really like I think like the memory like the psychology of memory, right? Like
Mhm,
memory is always like comfort. So it's like the way I think that we think about nostalgia is that it especially soothes uncertainty. And so I think, when we're living like in a present time like how we are now, where we have a lot of things that are politically unstable, economically unstable, socially unstable, we reach back to, what we view as like simpler or like more familiar times. And it's not saying that, oh my God, everything was unicorn and rainbows. Of course not,
mhm,
but there is something that when we reach back in time and we're remembering like when we were in like fifth or sixth grade and when that CD and when that artist came out with that new song, like where we were, and like so it create in this in the midst of so much like uncertainty and just upheaval, that memory of as comfort
mhm,
really just um it does. It comforts us. And I think that we always live in like a remix culture. I think every era reinterprets the past. Like, so 90s fashion borrow like flares and afros from like the 70s.
mhm,
When we think about like the 2020s, like, we have like this remix culture of like, baggy jeans and, Y2K graphics, like the 90s kind of aesthetics. And so, again, as you're saying, like as we grow older, there's always something that we latch on to
mhm,
that now a newer generation now reinterprets or reimagines. So like I think the first time that I ever really understood what reaching for nostalgia was when I think I was living in Chicago at the time, in like 2016, 20, around 2016. And my like I was TAing for a very big class. It was like a class of like 100, like over 100 students,
mm,
and they were all kind of like obsessed with what was it that they were obsessed with? They were particularly obsessed with vinyl.
mm.
Yeah, they were
That was
all
a
particularly
trend.
obsessed with vinyl. They were going around to like different vinyl shops, like in Chicago, to, of course, try to, like get their music and, stuff like that. And then I was like, what? Like vinyls? Like, I mean, of course, vinyls never gone away, but it's like, what? Like vinyls making a comeback. So that was like really one of my first instances where I was like, oh, okay, that's really cool, like so.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Something that recently came up for me because I don't know, I think I was watching something on Paramount Plus. I forgot what film. It was something old. Oh, it was a something South Park related. But anyways, um, on there was a oh, I was watching Sonic. That's what I was watching. Sorry, y'all. Anyway, um, there was a clip of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
Mhm.
And I heard the voice actors, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, these are actual teenagers. These are actual teenagers speaking for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and they even had them designed as a teenage kid. And I was like, oh my God. I don't think I ever like, yes, I realized that, with it being Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they're supposed to be teenagers and all that, but for our generation, we never got teenagers as that team. We
Mhm.
had voice actors that were adults, and their musculature was also adult. So it was like when I think back to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think of like them as whole beings, that they are self-sufficient, that they can run their house all by themselves because they've already aged properly in a way.
Mhm.
And I think it's a beauty, when I think about how this generation gets to experience a childlike version of these characters. And it started me thinking about what I like most about cartoons and what makes me go back to cartoons even to this day. Um, and I kind of like the cartoons that we had in the past versus the ones today. And
Yeah.
I kind of hate it because the cartoons we had were very inappropriate and not child friendly. Unlike the shows that are now out there, they are there for children, but I also think like, okay, once they become adults, are they going to go back to these cartoons and enjoy them as much?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, that's the thing, because I love what you just said, because like, we had the ritual, like Saturday morning cartoons was like a weekly ritual. Like, you know,
yes.
so it was, but one of the things that, because I've often said this to friends and just in conversations, like I rarely watch anything that, like is cartoon now, because to me, I don't particularly care for cartoons that are really like just all out explicit. Unless, like I'm watching something like, like I recently watched like Boondocks for the first time not too long ago. Love that. So it varies, here and there. But the reason why I loved our cartoons, like growing up, when I think about like, of course, like Scooby Doo and Powerpuff Girls and Ed Nettie, and even going
Right.
back even even more time, like the Jetsons and stuff like that, for Flintstones and all that kind of stuff. It was the things that like they always had a coded language that was always suitable to kids. That it's like, oh, okay, I really didn't know what this meant until I actually got older. So there was a lot more creativeness
Mhm.
in keeping you in a kid mind frame until you got older. And to me, that is something that I think that cartoons now have gotten away from. They've gotten away from that creativity where it's like, okay, yeah, we just gonna have this family just cuss in a storm. Like it's
Mm.
like no, like we didn't do that growing up. If somebody said a curse word or somebody said like a sexual innuendo, it was like, oh, this was like really coded. Whereas like I really would not have gotten this. So to me, that's what like the turn off for me. At least I know for me, that came with cartoons. Like for instance, I was an avid fan of watching The Simpsons growing up, but
Mm.
then all of a sudden, like when we got to like the 2010s era or whatever, then they started making like Bart and the family start cussing up a storm, and I'm just like, what is this? And even though I hadn't watched, like The Simpsons in quite a while, I'm just like, what is this? What is this? Like, no, like you're taking something that is a part of like my childhood memory and the fact that it's still on and now it's
Mhm.
being sullied.
No,
You know?
I'm with you there, because I don't like I enjoyed South Park. South Park had all the cussing and all the other stuff, so I knew that is the show I go for that kind of thing.
Mm,
But like whenever like you said with the Simpsons and how they changed the way that they were speaking and how they even approached some of the jokes, even though not necessarily like them becoming a little bit more open and progressive, that part, cool, whatever. But just the telling of certain things,
right.
just it became more of like, okay, I'm not really getting it anymore. I'm not really connecting with it as much. Like the slapstick humor that some cartoons will have will forever be appreciated because it was there for the moment, and the moment sticks every single time.
Mm,
And I think a lot of the cartoons that come out today, like Gumball is one of those shows I just think they do it right. They really do it very right because even though it's not a show that I grew up on, it's not a show that I go to watch every now and again. It's just something that if I see an episode, I watch the episode, I enjoy it, I laugh, I have a good time. It's very humorous. It is one of those things that does suit a child cartoon, but also child cartoon that adults can also watch. So it really does marry that concept that was around when we were a lot younger versus some other shows, and specifically the one that came up in my head. And y'all don't think I actually go out and watch these shows like that. It's just every now and again I'll turn on the TV if that's what's on and I don't feel like turning the channel. I'm just gonna let it watch. That's how I watch multiple Barbie movies growing up because I did not feel like changing the channel and it's on.
But that's also like another thing though. Like I remember like because I know I was a big Disney Channel fan growing up.
Mhm,
So it's like that golden age of Disney Channel where it's like you could turn it on Disney Channel and leave it on Disney Channel all day. Like when we had
mhm,
like That's So Raven, Lizzie McGuire, even Stevens, Proud Family, Kim Possible. They even, took like some of the shows that used to be on like ABC Family and like Sister Sister and like stuff like that and used to put them on Disney Channel. It's
mhm,
like literally growing up you could put it on Disney Channel like just leave it on Disney Channel all day. That was one of the only stations like I used to watch. I used to watch some things on Nickelodeon, some things on Cartoon Network, but Disney Channel was like my main station. Like the
mhm,
Disney Channel at night, I used to have my mom wake me up like at midnight, knowing it was a school night because I had to watch Rest in Peace. Was also one of my first crushes in the world. Rest in peace to Lee Thomas Young,
mm,
who was the star of the famous Jet Jackson.
Jackson, good
So I
show.
used to watch that show, The Jersey. I used to literally have my mom wake me up early in the morning, knowing I had to go to school. I used to just get up for that hour, watch those two shows, and just go right back to bed, and still
Mhm,
get up for school. That's just how I led. But it was just again like thinking about nostalgia, thinking about like what those shows like meant, to me growing up and stuff like
mhm.
that. So it's unbeatable.
Yeah, like, I'm glad that you mentioned the famous Jet Jackson because that is one of those iconic shows. And even I know one of the things that I used to love when I accidentally woke up early on a school day is that I would be able to watch a childhood show that I really enjoy. And like, I was a fan of this show for whatever reason. But it was Freakazoid. It would come on at like
Mhm,
5 a.m. or 4:30 a.m. And if I'm up early and I turn on the TV and it's there, I get to enjoy it in full
mhm.
and laugh. And then, of course, gotta get ready for school because
Yeah,
it's approaching
no,
that time.
and it was always like a ritual because, like, I remember like wait getting up, like when my grandmother was living with us, like it was always a ritual. I would get up by a certain time, I was dressed by a certain time, but I knew I didn't have to be at school immediately because I lived just like in the apartment complex next door, so I didn't have to leave early for school. So I
Mhm.
used to sit at the table, eat my breakfast, watch Saved by the Bell. Saved by the Bell was my morning show.
Gross.
That
Gee,
Saved by the
but
Bell
I'll
was
let you be
my yeah.
great.
Again, even though there's problems, but again, Saved by the Bell was my morning show. I used to watch before school, and even just like even how we coded certain TV because like I remember like we had our Saved by the Bells, we had our Boy Meets World, and like other
Yes.
shows that we used to watch like in like certain like contexts. So it's like, okay, yeah, I will watch these shows while, doing this. Or I remember when the WB was very popular. Like
Hmm.
two of my favorite shows, on the WB that, got to the WB, Charmed and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Those are my two
Amen.
favorite shows of all time. Like
Amen.
I used to sit with this big, as we remember, the big flat screens. We didn't have these skinny TVs like we have now that don't weigh anything. You had your big screen
Listen,
that
or the
took up
big fact.
exact the big bag that took up half the floor, and I would sit my behind on the couch or on the floor, and baby, come Thursday night WB, it used to be on, used to be
Listen,
on.
no, like, I I love that television, even though it didn't technically cut off, but like child television turned off at like 10 p.m.
Mhm.
because or some channels it was 9, but by 10 p.m. the kids are supposed to be in bed. But once you get a little bit older and you stay up a little bit late and you get to watch some of those late night shows, it
Mhm.
was phenomenal. Like at a young age, one of the shows that I really like, and I mean like before age 10, uh, I forget the name of it. I always just think Love and Marriage. I know that's not the real name of the song. It just comes that's the I mean, the
Mhm.
show, the song says Love and Marriage, Love and that show, whatever it's called, I used to love watching that.
Oh, Married with Children.
Married with Children.
Married with Children.
Love me some Married with
Yeah,
Children.
Al
And
Bundy.
then and then, at Nick at Night, when that would come on,
Yeah,
oh, I
Nick at
used to
Night.
love me some George Lopez. I don't know
Okay.
why, but soon as I start hearing that music coming on, it's like, "Okay, it's my show." I don't care what y'all got going on. I don't I was a Cartoon Network head. Nickelodeon, maybe number 2, and then Disney whenever they had their black shows, that's when I'm all up in it. If I'm not there on Friday for a movie or there's not any black things over there, I'm not watching,
Mhm.
Disney like that. I will turn away from Cartoon Network to get to my Nick at Night. I don't know why, but
Yeah,
they
no,
had the
Nick at Night
theme.
was the thing. And that was the great thing about it too. It's like you had at that time Disney, well, not no so more so Disney, but definitely Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon for sure had their like three tiers of programming. Cause like I remember around the time when Cartoon Network they had like the Adult Swim on.
Mm,
Like so it's kind of like okay, yeah, like you say at a certain time Cartoon Network wasn't really Cartoon Network. Like it became Adult Swim for like a little bit more mature cartoons,
mhm,
and stuff like that. Like you say Nick at Night with, George Lopez and a lot of other shows that used to come on. Yes, I'm all here for it. And you know what's also so funny? Like we were watching we had seen a clip, I think like a week or so ago, of like this on Instagram where this like, teenage guy, probably a part of like the Gen Z era, like he was asking in this Instagram video to like an older millennial about like how did we consume music and stuff like because we didn't have streaming and all that type of stuff. And we love the nature of like that breakdown, how he gave about like, yeah, we actually had like a nostalgia for music, like artists, we really didn't have a lot of artists that were like independent where they could
mm,
just like drop an album or like drop a song or whatever. We had to wait for it to be released, like on the radio. So we knew that, oh yeah, we're going to turn into this radio station to hear this song. We knew that, okay, yeah, we literally rushing home to watch 106 in Park, to watch TRL.
mm,
And even so, as we were talking about Nick at Night, if you go back to a lot of Nick at Night performances, Nickelodeon had debuts for a lot of artists performing
mhm,
their new music. So it's like, yeah, we ultimately have nostalgia because like music, you just couldn't get music instantly.
mhm.
You actually had to wait. It had to be a performance. It had to be a build up to when this artist was going to release this and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
it made it fun, and it made it fun to like be with your family and your peers doing it too.
Right, and even on top of that, because, the word delayed gratification, which I will forever love,
Mhm.
um, like, even though today we still have shows that we wait each week for new episodes to come out, but the beauty of that age before streaming is that we got teasers throughout the week and we got anticipation for
Yep.
this episode. It's
Yep.
not just, oh, here's the one little thing. Here's the last little few moments of
Mhm.
this what you'll see next time on Dragon Ball Z. No, you will get a little bit of a moment here and there through your commercial breaks, like, oh snap, that is coming out on this Friday. Oh, special on Cartoon
Mhm.
Network. Cartoon Network's new episode time frame is from Toonami went off at 7,
Mhm.
and you got your new episodes at 7, 7:30, 8, 8:30. And if they're giving us some extra spiciness, we might get something at 9 and 9:30 before it goes to Adult Swim. Like
Mhm.
to the Disney original productions, how they will have these things
Yes.
out every Friday at
Yes,
7 o'clock.
and let me tell you, I mean,
Oh,
we had some groundbreaking Disney original movies like The Color of Friendship, The Luck of the Irish.
yes.
Like we actually had movies that actually taught you about race, taught you about culture. You know,
Mhm.
even as we talk about this whole AI, era, guess what we had? We had Smart House back in the day. Like that
Yes.
was our first introduction, like to a live adaptation of like what AI could be. Shout out to the actress in that movie because she also plays Peg Bundy on Married with Children. Married with Children.
Yes.
So yeah, it's kind of like we had these movies and these, like just gems that it's like, and the reason why they remain such classic is because just like we talk about anything, no matter if you're talking about TV, film, music, you try to create things that are timeless. And I feel like that's something that I think that a newer generation doesn't have as much. And it's not to say that, you can't enjoy new music or whatever. You enjoy the times in which obviously that you're living in. But
Mhm.
to me, I think something that is lacking a bit with how like we experience new TV, new music, new generation, this whole new generation is that yeah, it's like I could watch something today, like I think it's good, but it's like it's not really anything I would go back and watch anytime soon,
Right.
or listen to anytime soon. So that's why I know in my brain, I have kind of like that 90s 2000s brain because that's where my memory is. That's where my joy is. And it's
Mm.
not to say that I don't enjoy things of today, but for me, it's like I know what I like. I know what's pleasing to my ear. Yes, when I hear a song, that's made today, yeah, do I maybe bop to it or, whatever. But, other than that, like it's not anything that's really like on my playlist or anything like that. What's on my playlist is my 90s and my 2000s R&B. Like
Exactly.
that's what I love. That's what I jam, that's what I jam to. And I do also like how somebody said one time, I like how this one person, an educated friend of mine said one time, they don't diss or, talk really badly about, today's music or TV or whatever because ultimately what's made for today is not really made for you.
Mhm.
Like I'm not the so I really enjoyed the way he said that. He's like, listen, as somebody in my like 40, like my 40s now, it's like most of the things that are done today, I'm not the target age range for. I'm not the demographic for.
Mhm.
So I think it's different. Like if you saw like, oh, like your favorite artist coming up and then they came out with something and you like, wait a minute, what the hell is this? Like because
Right.
that's not them. So, I just liked how he said, like, I don't, he doesn't bash or judge today's, music or TV or film or whatever, because it's like I'm not the target demographic for
Mhm.
it. So I'm not gonna judge it really.
Yeah, and the thing that when I think about the works that are being put out today's age versus in the 90s, early 2000s, is that for me it feels like back then we crafted things. We really put in the work to make something happen, and that's what makes it have that longevity. And then today everything is more manufactured. It's like we
Yeah.
have a blueprint. We're going to go off of that blueprint, get the money, and then keep it going.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing. We also live in a time where we have a lot more hypersensitivity to things. Now, I have a
Hmm.
back and forth with hypersensitivity because especially when we talk about like the nature of a comedy genre, right? Because I know personally for me, there are certain things that I used to find funny that now as being older, like I don't really find funny anymore,
Hmm.
or I don't really crack up at. And then there are things that no matter how old they are, like I still crack up at the same jokes no matter how many times I watch them. So when I'm watching my sitcoms, like my Living Single, my Martin, Fresh Prince, all those, like golden, sitcoms, A Different World, I crack up at the same moments and the same jokes each and every time. And I remember when I was watching a reaction to like a lot of people react to like movie Rush Hour, like the Rush Hour
Mhm.
trilogies. And a lot of people when they're reacting to Rush Hour, they're like, "Oh my god, like this is such like comedy gold." Like, and when you obviously when you watch the movie and you recognize all of the racial things that like Chris Tucker, that Carter says, especially to Jackie Chan, it's like, but again, as you go to say, it's about the craft of it, though. When you
Mhm.
watch a movie like Rush Hour, you recognize that like everything that Carter says is not necessarily like to make fun of like Asian culture or whatever. He's just being Carter, you know.
Mhm.
And then when you get into like the second and the third movie, you see where like Jackie Chan kind of serves that energy back. Like, so when you hear him make a joke which like, I'll bitch slap you back to Africa or something. It's like coming from like a today's age, it's like, oh my God, I cannot believe he said that. But in our age, it's like, yeah, because he up here tired of calling him, he tired of calling him
Okay.
out. So when you hear things like that, the reason why I think we don't have that kind of comedy today is one, we just have a lot of hypersensitivity, like, and especially with the social media age, and we can't just
Mhm.
let things be. And we always have these assumptions about like, oh, this would offend somebody or that would offend that person. Most people, if you actually, and it has actually been proven, like for all of the things that Chris Tucker, as Carter says in Rush Hour, you have actually had it proven. Like Asian culture, one of their favorite films is Rush Hour.
Mhm.
You know, so that's one of those things. Like just because you may have a heightened sensitivity to something, that does not mean that you speak for other people. So
This
if you're going to enjoy something, enjoy it. If you enjoy dark humor or whatever kind of humor, definitely you enjoy it, but don't presume on the fact of other people. You know.
okay. Like, and this is why not to say I'm like a big Dave Chappelle defender because no, he be saying some problematic stuff, but he also is very phenomenal when it comes to crafting a joke.
Mhm.
Like and I'm a firm believer of allowing people who a joke is about to be the first one to speak on something before we try to put on our advocate hats to be the moral authority in the room,
Mhm.
and also give a level of grace and appreciation for where this person may be coming from with the jokes.
Mhm.
Like I don't think people are so happy to, and this is something that's a huge difference between when we were younger to where we are today, because look, we understood sticks and stones and all that, but we also knew the importance of throwing a fist every now and then. Not saying that we need to, not saying that, I'm not advocating
No,
that.
but sometimes you got to get people together.
Listen, I'm still trying to see who's trying to go outside to get these three-piece chickens. I'm frying. Like, I'm still on that energy. But like, when I think about how quick people are to go out there to shame a person and say how they offended this, that, and the third, and it's just like, have you spoken to somebody in that community? Have you spoken to somebody who has been offended? And let them be the voice there. Why don't you step back and listen and you amplify their voice before
Yeah.
you continue this thing,
Mhm.
right? And this is specifically going towards Dave Chappelle and his trans jokes,
Mhm.
which look, punch down, punch up. I get where people are coming from. Now, in terms of my close friends who happen to be trans, rarely found any issues with anything Dave Chappelle said. Not to say there were any trans people who did not find any offense to anything that he said, because, it's strongly possible.
Mhm.
But the man gives you context of he developed a friendship with someone who's trans, and they wanted him to spread more trans jokes, and he does that on stage. Why can we not just allow that to be a thing?
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, and that's the importance of crafting, because as someone who deals with rape culture and all of that,
Mhm.
and I know the dangers of rape jokes. But that man, that his joke about Bill Cosby, It was phenomenal. I don't care. Like, you can
Yeah, but but like you say, it's kind of like we live in a culture now where people want to take it upon themselves to be offended for other
Mhm,
people, and it's like, okay, some of that has merit, like, but you also have
mhm.
to take a step back. It's like, okay, but if something offended you, then just say that. Like,
Okay.
no, I didn't like that. Like, because again, there may be. I'm a prime example. Like, there are sometimes like the things that are said, like in TV and film, especially against women, that I'm
Mhm.
just like, what the hell?
That's not
Like, what
cool.
the hell? Now, I could be sitting next to a woman and she'd be like, whatever, you know, but for whatever reason, it offended me. I don't live in the embodiment of a woman, but but it's like, but if I have issue with that, then that's my issue. Like, I just don't like it,
Mhm.
but I'm not going to take it upon myself to like be offended for like the woman sitting next to me or, like something like that. Like, learn how to like, decipher what is your reality versus someone else's.
Exactly, and guess what? The beauty of social media, if like you were saying in this example, you're offended on behalf of a woman, you could find somebody online who shares that same offense and you hype that up. And that is okay. That is perfectly fine. Or especially when it comes to these think pieces that people put out there, talk we can have an approach of this is how I feel. I did not like this particular theme because it made me feel this way. I interpreted it in this way, and I did see that as being offensive,
Mm,
and leave it at that. And what I wish more of us will be able to do is take ownership of our feelings, ownership of our experiences without
mm,
trying to make it an objective fact that, oh, this is completely offensive. No, I
mm.
found offense. I did not like it. It was tasteless in my opinion. And that's it.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, I also think that one of the things that has, of course, we have to talk about, like, that has changed so rapidly over the course of like our decades is how far technology has have
Oh my God.
come. It's like one of the things that I love to like add. Sometimes I used to love to ask in my class would be like, okay, like at what age like did y'all like have like your first like cell phone or whatever? And like so usually like my students, they'll be like, oh yeah, y'all have, like a phone since like elementary school or whatever. And then I will like people will like be bug-eyed when I tell them like I didn't get myself first cell phone until I was 16.
Mm,
Like, so I tell them that, I thought I was all that with my little Verizon flip phone and,
okay.
my little sidekick, like I thought I thought I was the shit.
Okay.
Like, so the thing is that it's such a funny conversation when you have with, younger people where it's like, yeah, when we first had cell phones, like, no, there was not social media built into phones. Like the most you could do with your cell phone was text, and even with texting, you had to press the keypad to get to the one letter.
Hmm.
And so it took you forever to send a text. And then the only other thing you had on your phone was those like little two or three free games. Anything else you had to buy from the store. You had to buy from the mobile
Oh,
store.
texting and driving used to be so much easier. I don't do it anymore like that, but to have a keyboard where you can literally be at the road, but because your fingers memorize
Hmm.
all of the buttons, you have 10 to choose from, and you get everything right. And
Yeah,
you did it off.
you
It was
did.
so easy.
You
But
did.
now you have to just be like, guesswork, or be all up in your phone like this, and you just like,
Yeah.
no,
And
don't.
now this is to stick up for us like 90s like babies like who grew up. Like I tend to say like we and I do tend to agree, we kind of grew well, I would say like late 80s moving into like mid
Mhm,
90s. Like we were like I think like the best like generation to come up because like we were at the cusp of the generation where it's like yes, we knew how to do things analog, of course,
mhm.
but we were at the tipping point of like the vast technology age. So like I have distinct memories of like being at my grandmother's, house where it's like she still had her rotary phone. And like even though I didn't use it all the time, it's like, oh yeah, I could still like use it like if I needed to.
Mhm.
Or thinking about like how my mom will bring up like, yeah, like when we actually had, like a lot of payphones, like you always had to make sure you carried, quarters on you just in case like you had to, stop on a corner to make a phone, to make a phone call. Like my dad had that big, like those big cell phones when they first came out. Like the phones were not little, like, or they weren't
Mhm.
flip or, whatever. But I just think, for us being like late millennials moving into like the early 2000s, like we were really like at a great time to be on the cusp of, yeah, we know how to do, a lot of things analog, but we were also on that verge of like a rapid, sort of age with technology as well. Because I remember,
Mhm.
like, I couldn't afford to have like a computer, like a home computer in my house. So whenever I had to do like a report for school or something, I had to go to the library to like
Mhm.
type up my little reports, and stuff. So,
Ain't that it? Ain't that it?
oh, and
Uh,
don't you remember like the floppy disk, like having to save your work on a floppy disk?
yes. Yes. Those things used to be so okay, let me go ahead and put it in there. Save 3 minutes
Hey.
later. Okay, it saved, or it didn't really save. So now you have to try to do the thing again, and it's all you hear is and you just like, is this thing breaking or what? Like,
Like,
what's
like,
happening? Oh my
like you could
god!
literally go up the street, go get something to eat, and that thing would still be saving itself.
Right, 2000, 2003 Word. No,
Mm,
the version before that, because
yeah.
when 2000, 2003 came out, you were like, "Oh, this is nice."
Nice.
This oh, hold up now.
Yeah, when you actually had the
Underline
Microsoft packages, right?
look, the little, when, what's his name? The, paperclip came out, and you just like, "Hello, how are you? You're here to help me with" the Felix the cat as a program, you get to throw him around the screen. How everybody's computer had that one alien that say,
Hmm.
"I will survive."
Yep. And can we talk about MapQuest directions? Now, that is the one thing I do not miss from our time. Like having to actually print out your MapQuest directions and rely on your intuition and just
Mhm.
whatever common sense God gave you to navigate yourself to where you needed to be. Like
Your
I thank
eyes
God for GPS. I thank God for
listen,
modern GPS.
your eyes so fixed on that, and of course, I wasn't driving at this time, but I
Right, of
remember
course.
your eyes being so fixed on the mileage, like, "Okay, we have to go
Mhm.
5.3
Yes.
miles,
Like
so
you had to
make
be in
sure
tune with them directions.
make sure you keep your eye out. Do you see the road? Do you see the road?
Yes,
You're supposed
look
to be
for
making
it.
a left. It's already been 5 miles. We got point 3 to go. I need you to be on the lookout." Oh god, no.
Like, no, like literally, I think my funniest story with MapQuest, it came from, I think it was the first time me and my mom, we were supposed to be going to Disney World
Mhm.
in Florida. So being in Georgia, we live right by the expressway. We hit the road, we just driving. It's been hours. All of a sudden we start seeing mountains and we're like, wait a minute,
In Florida?
this don't look right. So lo and behold, we find out, oh, we were traveling in the wrong direction all this time. We're actually headed towards Tennessee, north, not south, Florida. So my mom calls my dad, like as she had her like little flip phone at the time, and she's like, yeah, we're going in the wrong direction. Like, what do I do? And my dad just being nonchalant, he's just like, get off and turn around and come back. Like, because it's like my mom is frantic, but it's like my dad had the attitude, like, just get your ass off. Come back.
A simple
So we
fix.
literally had to go back home, get some rest, and actually get back on the road hours later and head in the right direction. Now, if that
Uh,
was modern today, the GPS would be signaling like, didn't I tell y'all dumbass?
listen,
Go the wrong
I need for there to actually be a disrespectful GPS, because just imagine, turn around, turn around at the
turn
next
around.
right.
Yeah, and
Turn
yes.
around at the bitch, did I tell you to turn
Didn't
around
I?
at the next right? How dare you not take that fucking I said this 8 times and I had to remap. Oh, you think you know the directions better than I do? Oh, you
Right.
just want to be late. Okay, you could be late. You could
Mm-mm.
be late. You could be late. You could be late.
Yep, it's like we do. That needs to be the next era of GPS that we need. Like I need my GPS to get disrespectful when I'm not doing right because I need somebody to get me together.
Listen, that would be so hilarious. I would just be like, okay, it's time to turn this off.
Yeah.
It's time to turn this
But
off.
no, literally with AI and everything, the next era we gonna get into is that Megan era. Like if y'all seen the movie, y'all know.
Oh, yes.
Y'all know.
Granted, I have not seen the movie, but I know the premise, and I'm all here for her dancing before you kill people. Like Megan is hilarious. I do need to watch it because seeing the clip from Meg 2, I was like,
Mhm.
oh, this isn't really scary.
Oh
Okay.
no, Megan is funny as I don't know what. And literally, just like with any other AI movie or anything like that, it's like I blame the humans. Like y'all are the ones that
Hmm.
started this bullshit. Like,
Exactly.
hello. But yeah, but yeah, having technology conversations is just always funny. Like I tell my students, like sometimes, like yeah, we actually had to buy ringtones. Like if you
Hmm.
wanted like a ringtone for your artist, you had to your favorite music artist, like you had to buy it. Like
Hmm. Or
um,
find a way to download it off a LimeWire and put it on your phone.
exactly. Like, and just even in like living in the whole aspect of like, making your mixtapes and
Mm,
CD burning, like, doing all this shit that's illegal. But,
yes.
like we made it a common practice. It was no big deal.
We are a very illegal generation, and I'm okay with that. We we
I'm
we
okay with
broke a lot of rules, and I'm very comfortable with knowing that I lived through that age and
it.
that is still within me because I will continue to pirate things if need.
Yes. LimeWire and Napster.
Okay.
Hello? Yes.
So the last thing I have for nostalgia is MySpace because it's always
Yeah.
wanted to have that conversation. How it had a generation of people learning how to code without even knowing that we're coding.
Mm.
When I tell you the profile pages on a lot of my friends' page, my page, just on
Mm.
point how well people used to code on there. You get your own type of mouse when you go on somebody's, well, the icon for a mouse when you
Yes.
go on somebody's page. Some people have like things just drifting down their profiles. You have music that you can share with your friends so that they get to know what you're listening to, or their page puts you on something new, or you put them on something like that's how a lot of my family learned about
Mm.
Drake because
Say
I
like,
had some of his songs on my MySpace page,
mm.
and I soon shortly after that was no longer a fan of Drake. So love
Mm.
Aubrey. Drake, I don't know how I feel about you. Well,
Well, that's the thing. Like
but
when Drake became like an artist, I was like, who's he? Like he's Jimmy from Degrassi for me. He'll
okay,
always be Jimmy from Degrassi. Like,
okay.
so I'm just like, okay, he wants to be an artist. All right, that's fine.
That's
Good for
fine.
him.
That's cool. But I still have a special place in my heart for Replacement Girl. That was a good song.
Mm.
But yeah, like MySpace was that girl back then. And of course,
Yes.
Facebook came a little bit afterwards. I was still attached to MySpace at the time. And I feel like we all owe Tom an apology. And we need Tom to just go ahead and purchase that thing back. We would love to come back to MySpace and get those profiles back to be able to do the things that we used to do because Facebook don't like us. Facebook would never do it. I went over there because people was like it's better than MySpace, and I was just allowing it to grow on me, and it didn't really grow. And once MySpace officially was turned
Mhm.
off, I was just like, oh, okay, I guess I'm stuck over here now. Can we bring you back, Tom?
And then even when we think about like fashion, right? Like, like I remember like having my like baby fat, my Rockaware, my
Yes.
FUBU, like, because the thing about, and I think the thing about fashion with any generation is that it's like anything, like it influences culture.
Mhm.
So like obviously in the 90s we were shifting to like that, to like a hip hop culture and things like that. So we were having like the beanie hats, the baggy jeans, like things like that. And then as it reverberated into like the early 2000s, now these things are now becoming like a brand.
Mm.
So I just think it's very interesting about like when we have things that are a part of culture that, or even like like what were those things I call like the juicy couture like tracksuits,
Mhm.
so yeah, so just even thinking about that and what it was like to like go to the mall, like and see these like things on display. Like you would get your fashion tips from like your celebrity magazines, like we were always in our Essence and our Jets and our Peoples and, just any magazines we could get our hands on because they always had like the teen section, and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So, I mean, just things that just, oh my God, it made you feel like you were just like in your own little world. I don't even know if kids still do this, but like, I don't know how about it was where you was school, but every year it's like you haven't maybe seen like you may have seen like your friends for summer or maybe you haven't, I don't know, but it's like come the new school year, everybody was dripped out to a T. You had to look
Mhm.
bomb on your first day of
Yes.
the new school year because you had to have what we call now a glow up. It's
Mhm.
like, no, I'm not in fifth grade no more. This is sixth grade. Like we have leveled up. We have leveled up.
And I can answer that question since, I do have some, minor clients. They
Mhm.
still do it. They
They still
still
do.
do
Okay,
it. That
good,
that
good.
first day of school, we
That
need to
first day
know
of
what
school,
we're
you got to
wearing.
be dripped out.
Gots to be.
You
Like,
got to be.
it's
So yeah,
so
I
good.
love the fact that they still do that and like some things haven't changed. Cause like I don't mean to shade, but like sometimes the youth of today, like, that sometimes they don't be putting no effort into like how they be looking coming out the house. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, I get it. But like when we rolling up to class and like Crocs and short, like you literally look like you just rolled out of bed.
Mhm.
It's like what happened to having a little bit of pride about your appearance. Sometimes that affects the way that you move throughout your day. I ain't saying you got to get dressed up all to a T every single day, but look like you combed your hair. Like look you look like somebody. I can't. I can't.
Oh god. Alright. Anything else before we end up closing everything out?
No, I think that this was just such a fun topic to, talk about. And we would love to know from anybody that, like obviously is listening to us, watching us, like, let us know what are some things like, you're nostalgic for. Of course, me and Vernon, like, of course, we focus a little bit more in like, of course, like the 90s, early 2000s, because that's where, our generation stems. But obviously, if you're older, like, what's some things like you're nostalgic for? Even if you're younger, like again, trends come in and out so much that like this evolution that we have is killer. So like what are some
Mhm.
things like you're nostalgic for? Mind you, also before we wrap up, the things that sell today, like do you know like in certain circles like a Walkman CD player is worth $900?
What?
Yes.
I don't have one.
Listen,
You over here thinking
when
about what's
they
in
talked about
storage?
keeping hold of like your collectibles, I am so upset that I don't have my VHS tapes anymore because I moved around
Right.
so much. Like I could be living large right now with how many VHS tapes that I used to have. It used to cry.
Should. I used to keep so much stuff too. Ugh.
I'm so upset.
I would love to
So
have a
upset.
nice little come up like that, but it's all good. It's all
It's
good.
all good. It's all good. But no, we thank everybody for, rocking with us and everything. Again, this was such a great way to like end our, kind of like first season, so to speak. So of
Mhm.
course, y'all, we love y'all. We're gonna be taking a little bit of a hiatus and of course we'll be back. We won't be gone for too long. But anything that we have to update with, we may do like small, like maybe like 10-minute videos for.
Right, right. But yeah, definitely get into the comments, especially if anything random or anything that you feel like y'all would love our commentary on, especially during this break, put it in the comments. Let us know so that once we see it, we can dive into that content and then we can talk about it on the show. Like definitely let us know some of your opinions. And I am really interested in knowing some of the nostalgia moments for those people who are in their 20s today, especially those people that was born in the year 2000, like my little sister. I need to talk to
Mm.
her. Because you're at that point now where you're starting to recognize, 10 years ago, I was in middle school or high school, or
Right.
you are in the same room because once you're at a certain point, you're no longer in the room with kids. And then you randomly find yourself in a room with a kid and you're just like, I feel old. And you're only 25. And if you're feeling that, that means your nostalgia is going to be kicking in sometime soon, and I am excited to know some of the things that's like highlights from your years on this planet, be it in the early 2010s, or the early 2000s, whatever you can remember there.
Yeah.
But super excited to know y'all's perspective. But with that being said, thank you for tuning in to Melanin and Moonlight, your late night space for deep, thought provoking conversations about sex, culture, and the well being of the Black community. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the podcast to keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep the vibes flowing and your mind open. Bye.
Bye, y'all.